Amelia carried herself through her mansion with the authority of someone who believed kindness was optional and superiority was a birthright. Every corner of her grand home reflected her taste: polished marble floors, tall mirrors catching sunlight, crystal chandeliers gently swaying above. Yet none of it softened the sharpness in her voice when she addressed Sophia, the young maid of 23 whose quiet nature often made her an easy target. Sophia moved with gentle precision, arranging flowers and dusting frames, always careful not to disturb anything. But Amelia watched her with cold eyes, waiting for a mistake she could pounce on. When Sophia adjusted a silver tray by just an inch, Amelia snapped loudly, accusing her of being careless. Sophia's cheeks warmed with embarrassment, though she whispered a sincere apology. Victor, Amelia's husband, observed from the hallway. He didn't speak yet, but his eyes followed every detail: Sophia's trembling fingers, Amelia's raised chin, and the tension that filled the room like thick fog. Amelia believed she was teaching discipline, but Victor knew she was simply enjoying the power imbalance. The guests arriving later would never guess how often Amelia scolded the staff behind closed doors. Sophia took a slow breath, steadying herself, refusing to let tears win. She had grown used to swallowing hurt, yet each harsh word still stung. As preparations continued, Amelia grew increasingly demanding. She pointed out invisible specks on the table, accused Sophia of ignoring instructions, and even criticized the way she held a cloth. Sophia listened quietly, nodding, though each comment scraped at her dignity. Victor moved closer, unable to ignore the way Amelia's tone cut deeper than necessary. He wanted to intervene, but he knew Amelia hated being corrected, especially in front of anyone she considered beneath her. Sophia, meanwhile, tried to steady her breathing and keep her focus on the tasks. Her upbringing had taught her to endure, to hold her emotions tightly because showing pain rarely softened those who caused it. Amelia's voice echoed through the room, loud enough for staff nearby to hear, turning Sophia's small mistake into a public display. Victor watched Sophia's hands shake slightly as she arranged napkins. The humiliation was heavy, pressing against her like an unwanted shadow. Amelia's friends often praised her confidence, but Victor saw the truth: she valued appearances more than humanity. He felt an unease spreading through him, a reminder that the woman he married had changed in ways he no longer recognized. Sophia kept her head down, but her silence carried a quiet strength that Victor could not ignore. When the guests began to arrive later that afternoon, Amelia transformed instantly into a charming hostess, her harshness replaced by a warm smile so convincing that no one would suspect how she treated the staff moments earlier. She greeted each visitor with graceful gestures, offering compliments and laughs in perfect timing. Sophia served drinks and appetizers, keeping her steps light, hoping to blend into the background. But Amelia, eager to display her authority even before her friends, purposely called her attention repeatedly. Sometimes it was for insignificant things: adjusting a glass by an inch, fetching a napkin already within reach, or pointing out a non-existent flaw. Each instruction was delivered with a tone that implied Sophia could barely manage simple tasks. The guests exchanged uneasy glances. They felt something wrong in Amelia's tone but didn't dare speak. Victor stood nearby, watching everything unfold. His fists tightened slightly each time Amelia used her voice like a whip. Sophia's pain was silent but obvious to him, the way her shoulders slumped a little with every command revealed more than words ever could. Still, she moved with dignity, refusing to let humiliation define her. The final spark came when Sophia accidentally bumped into a chair while serving tea. The cup rattled on the tray but didn't fall. Still, Amelia seized the moment. She turned sharply to Sophia, her voice sharp enough to freeze the room. "If you can't handle simple tasks, maybe you don't belong here," she said loudly, making sure every guest heard her. The room fell silent. Sophia's breath hitched, and her eyes glistened with the tears she refused to let fall. Victor took a step forward, no longer caring about the scene or his wife's pride. He saw the way Sophia's spirit seemed to shrink inside her, and something inside him snapped. The guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing something heavy settling into the room. Sophia lowered her head, whispering an apology, though she had done nothing wrong. Amelia stood tall, satisfied with her display of dominance. But Victor's expression changed. His patience had finally reached its end. Victor walked toward Sophia, ignoring Amelia's disapproving glare. He placed a gentle hand on Sophia's shoulder to steady her trembling. Then, turning to the stunned guests, he said calmly but firmly, "Enough." His voice carried a weight that immediately changed the atmosphere. Amelia blinked as though she didn't recognize the man standing before her. Victor continued, "There is a line between correction and cruelty. And today, you crossed it over and over." Gasps of surprise filled the room. Amelia's face paled. Sophia looked up slowly, confusion and gratitude mixing in her expression. Victor then revealed what Amelia never expected him to say aloud. Sophia was not just a maid randomly hired. She was someone Victor had promised to help, the daughter of a man who once saved Victor's life years ago. He had vowed to protect her future, and he wouldn't allow humiliation under his own roof. The guests stood frozen, unsure how to react as the truth unfolded. Amelia's lips parted, stunned into silence. She had never heard this story, and realizing that she had been cruel to someone her husband deeply respected made her confidence crumble. She tried to speak, but no words came. Victor turned back to Sophia, his voice softening as he explained how her father had risked everything to save him long before he met Amelia. Sophia's eyes widened, overwhelmed. She had never expected her painful past to be spoken aloud, especially in such a moment. Amelia's friends exchanged looks, clearly discomforted by how dramatically the situation had shifted. Amelia reached out slightly as if to reclaim control of the room, but even she sensed that her grip had slipped completely. Victor's tone remained steady and respectful as he emphasized that no one, especially someone with a good and hard-working heart, should ever be treated with disrespect. The room grew heavier, but this time the weight was on Amelia. Every guest could see the difference between her postured elegance and Sophia's quiet strength. Victor continued speaking, not in anger but in deep disappointment. He described how Sophia had been working 2 jobs, supporting her ailing mother, and never once complained. He shared how she arrived early, stayed late, and still managed to carry a gentle kindness despite her hardships. The guests looked at Sophia with new eyes, realizing she was far more remarkable than Amelia ever allowed. Sophia's hands folded in front of her as she tried to steady her emotions. She had never asked for praise, only respect. Victor emphasized that humility and compassion were worth more than wealth or grandeur. The truth left Amelia feeling exposed in a way she had never experienced. Finally, unable to bear the silence, Amelia whispered, "I didn't know." Her voice cracked. It was the first time anyone in the room had heard uncertainty from her. Victor responded quietly, "You didn't ask." The reply struck her harder than any public embarrassment she had intended for Sophia. Amelia lowered her gaze, and for the first time, she seemed to genuinely reflect. Sophia watched with cautious empathy, not wanting to see anyone hurt but unable to ignore the fairness of the moment. The guests shifted awkwardly, sensing that they were witnessing something deeply personal. Amelia's breathing grew unsteady. She realized her actions had not elevated her, they had reduced her. Sophia finally found her voice. Soft but steady, she said, "I never wanted to cause problems. I only wanted to do my work well." The simplicity of her words contrasted sharply with the grandeur of the setting and the drama that had unfolded. Amelia swallowed hard, aware that everyone saw her differently now, not as a graceful hostess but as someone capable of needless cruelty. Victor stepped beside Sophia, standing in quiet solidarity. The guests admired the way Sophia handled the moment, with calm, with dignity, without spite. Amelia hesitated before murmuring an apology, her pride cracking but not yet shattered. The room felt lighter but fragile, like something delicate had been repaired but might break again if handled poorly. Victor gently told Sophia she was free for the evening and encouraged her to rest, insisting that she had endured more than enough. Sophia nodded gratefully, her eyes soft with relief. When she stepped out of the room, the atmosphere shifted completely. Victor finally turned to Amelia, his voice calm but firm. "Respect is not optional," he said. "Not in this house." Amelia closed her eyes, realizing she had nearly destroyed the very image she worked so hard to maintain. The guests slowly resumed conversation, though the energy remained changed. Amelia stood alone for several moments, absorbing the lesson life had delivered so sharply. And from that day forward, the mansion no longer echoed with sharp commands or cutting tones, because the truth Victor revealed had reshaped everything within its walls. Later that night, long after the guests had left and the lights in the grand hall had dimmed, Amelia found herself unable to sleep. She wandered through the silent mansion, each room echoing with memories of her earlier cruelty, the humiliation she had caused, and the truth her husband had revealed. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her own behavior pressing against her chest. The silence around her was not comforting, it was accusatory. She reached the kitchen doorway and paused when she saw Sophia quietly putting away dishes she had returned for after resting. Sophia didn't see her yet, working gently, humming under her breath, unaware that the woman who had humiliated her now stood watching. Amelia took a slow breath, realizing how different their worlds were despite living under the same roof. Sophia's resilience, her calm after everything, struck Amelia deeply. She stepped inside, her footsteps soft but deliberate, and Sophia turned in surprise. Amelia swallowed the last pieces of her pride and whispered an apology, not the shallow ones she often gave guests, but a real one that trembled on the edge of sincerity. Sophia's eyes widened, unsure how to react. Amelia admitted she had let her insecurities twist into cruelty, confessed that she had forgotten what humility looked like, and acknowledged that Victor's words had opened a truth she could no longer avoid. Sophia listened silently, her expression a mix of caution and compassion. When Amelia finished, Sophia offered her a small, forgiving smile, not because she had to, but because kindness was part of her nature. In that moment, Amelia felt something unfamiliar but strangely liberating, the beginning of change. The next morning, sunlight filtered softly through the tall windows, casting long golden beams across the polished floors of the mansion. Amelia woke early, her heart still unsettled yet lighter than the day before. Victor had already left for a meeting, but he had placed a note on her bedside table, short, gentle, and written in his familiar steady handwriting, reminding her that change did not come from shame but from willingness. She folded the note carefully and carried it with her as she walked down to the kitchen, where she found Sophia preparing breakfast with her usual quiet rhythm. For a moment, Amelia hesitated, unsure if the fragile bridge built during the late-night apology would hold in daylight. Sophia looked up and offered a polite smile that wasn't forced, and that gave Amelia the courage to step forward. She asked whether she could help, a simple question but one that stunned Sophia, who blinked in surprise before nodding slowly. Amelia washed vegetables, awkwardly at first, but Sophia guided her without judgment. The kitchen felt different that morning, warmer somehow, filled not with hierarchy but a soft, unfamiliar mutual respect. As they worked side by side, Amelia found herself noticing things she had long ignored. The gentle patience in Sophia's voice, the way she handled everything with care, and the quiet strength that had allowed her to endure humiliation without losing dignity. Amelia felt a strange mix of admiration and regret. She confessed softly that Victor's revelation had shaken her because it forced her to see the world beyond her own comfort. Sophia didn't respond immediately, but the slight softening in her expression said enough. When breakfast was ready, Amelia insisted that Sophia sit with her for a few minutes, something she had never offered before. They shared a quiet meal, not as mistress and maid but as two women learning, slowly and uncertainly, how to build understanding from the fragile ashes of a broken moment.